Hi, this is Tutor Nick P, and this is lesson 387. All right, the title of today's lesson is the difference between compared to and compared with. Now, over the years, I've had a number of students ask me this, and this is really a tough one because the meaning's almost exactly the same. So let's take a look at the note of that part first. Both phrases mean in relation to or judged against. You're basically comparing one thing to another. Okay, let's continue here. A number of dictionaries, such as Webster's and Collins, actually list compared with as a variant of compared to. So it's another variation of having basically the same meaning. This word would suggest in many cases they are interchangeable, where you could just use one or the other in many, many situations. Now, having said that, I did find some guidelines where you're a little more likely to use one than the other, but really, some native speakers, these are almost exactly the same. They're used almost exactly the same. But let's cover the guidelines and see whether it is true that maybe in this particular case, this one's a little more common than that one. Doesn't mean the other one is entirely wrong, so that this one, either compared to or compared with, would be more common in a particular case. All right, so let's look at the first part here. One is more likely to use compared to in order to bring attention to or suggest similarities. Yeah, compared to is focusing more on the similarities between things or objects considered to be of a different order or kind. So even though they're of a different order, you're suggesting something similar about them. Okay, let's look at it. Here's a couple of examples of this. He compared his retirement to an endless vacation. Now, obviously, retirement and endless vacation are completely different things. They're not of the same order, but there is some similarities. He's comparing it to this. Maybe it just feels like it goes on and on. So, or number two here, she compared her childhood to a prison sentence. Yeah, maybe she had to work as a child or was forced to work as a child. And she's thinking back about that. So again, you're showing that this is like this, but really childhood and prison sentence are very different things. They're of a different order, but she's stressing the similarities between the two, or maybe the feelings between the two. Or okay, good. Let's continue. One is more likely to use compared with to bring attention to the differences. So compared with focuses a little bit more on stressing the differences of objects or things of the same order. Okay. Maybe this was an author or, a speaker. She compared the Trump administration with the Obama administration. So they're both administrations, but yet she's probably stressing the differences between them. Maybe the way Trump runs his administration is very, very different from the way Obama ran his administration. So that's what they're saying here. They're stressing the differences, but it's something of the same order. The administration of the government. So that part is the same, but they're stressing the differences. In these cases, you should probably use compared with would be more common. Okay. All right, let's continue. He compared living in Tokyo with living in Taipei. Okay. Again, maybe you want to show the differences about living in these two different places, but they're both talking about living in a major city. So it's kind of on the same order. It's of the same kind. All right. Let's continue. All right. Let's see. One is more likely to use compared to when the purpose is to state two or more items or people are similar. So again, the focus is stressing the similarities without the need to explain in detail. So let's again give an example. He compared the struggles of Gandhi to free India, or the people of India, and improve rights of Indian citizens to the struggles of Martin Luther King trying to improve civil rights for African Americans. Okay. So again, you're trying to stress the similarities here. All right, then we could say one is more likely to use compared with when placing facts or items next to each other. Okay. This one could be either stressing differences or similarities. John's pitching record of 24 wins and 10 losses is much better compared with Jack's record of 12 wins and 15 losses. So you're really putting the two records right next to each other so you can compare them and you could show the differences between them. But you have them kind of lined up. In this case, they say compared with would be a little more common. But again, they are so close in meaning, they are kind of interchangeable. Wouldn't worry too much, but there's just some cases where you're a little more likely to use one than the other. But the question had come up many, many times. Okay, anyway, I hope you got a better feel. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was clear. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.